Thank you, Senator Faruqi. I'll go to Senator Carr.
Thank you. Can I just follow up on some of those matters that Senator Faruqi's raised? The appeals process. Just if you could clarify something for me. I've got a copy of your memo from the 11th of October, which was distributed regarding the 17 future fellows and the 15 decras. And you say within that, we are unable to change the preprint requirements in the grant guidelines that were in place for schemes where application periods have now closed. And appeals will be processed as usual, and outcomes of these appeals will be used as a guide. Consistent applications of policy to other ARC schemes operating under the same guidelines, including other closed schemes rounds yet to be announced. Now, doesn't that effectively mean the decision in regard to appeals will be upheld when the ARC Appeals Committee finds that the ARC itself was at fault?
Certainly the Appeals Committee, that is one possible outcome.
In fact, that's the only possible outcome, isn't it? By terms of those particular guidelines, the statements that you've made on the 11th.
So appeals will either be successful or unsuccessful with regard to that. And you're correct, if they're successful, then the ARC will look at its process.
Thank you. I'm saying to you more than that. I'm saying that as a result of this mishap, this clear policy failure, you are now saying to applicants, you can only be successful with your appeal if the ARC itself finds that it has made an error.
Senator, the Appeals Committee is independent of the ARC.
But that's what your statement says on the 11th of October. That's the consequence of the statement that you have in fact issued to universities. Is that correct?
I don't know what more I can say, Senator. People will appeal on the grounds that they feel they have, and that is why we have an independent appeals committee. And
what's the judicial process beyond the independent appeals process?
The standard processes for Commonwealth funding, there are ombudsman, administrative appeals tribunal, etc.
Or the minister?
I guess so, yes.
Particularly where the ARC itself has made the error. I'm particularly interested in the number of future fellows and discovery early career research awards who have, as a condition of grant, only a limited time, a limited number of application rounds that they can actually apply for. That's the case, isn't it?
Certainly, it's a timed process beyond PhD, particularly for decras, yes.
So how many, it also applies to future fellows, doesn't it?
Gosh, I should know that one, Senator, and I'll certainly it applies to decras, and I'll check that for you.
All right, well, I'll let you take that on notice, but
yes.
I'm just saying, the consequence of the ARC's own mistakes is that applicants can be ruled ineligible because they have extended beyond the legitimate number of times they can apply for these grants. Is that correct?
I don't know the situation with respect to these individual applications and eligibility requirements.
Is the proposition I'm putting to you correct or not? Is it possible that an applicant can be ruled out because they have they've extinguished the number of times they can actually apply?
Certainly they can run out of opportunities,
yes.
And we are not at the stage where we can ascertain that because we don't know the appeals outcomes.
All right, so you can't tell me how many of the applicants fit into that category?
No, I can't, Senator.
All right, will you take that on notice?
Senator, I am held separate to the appeals process until a later stage, so I would be careful of making comment ahead of the appeals.
You're not asked to make comment, you're asked to take it on notice. That's the point of taking it on notice. If you don't know the answer, take it on notice.
Senator Carr, but you can't direct the official to answer in a particular way, but Professor Thomas.
But
Senator Carr.
Mr Chairman, there is no answer. They're taking on a notice.
I think Senator Carr, Professor Thomas explained, well, she might not have the information, so an
She
official
hasn't
cannot be
got the
expected to
information
answer
at
something
this
they do not
time.
know.
At this time, she doesn't have the information, is what she's putting to the committee. What I'm suggesting is that when she does have the information, she give me an answer.
So long as Senator Carr understands that there may be a considerable amount of time
I don't
associated
think
with that.
No, hang on. Senator Stoke, I don't believe there is a considerable amount of time. As Professor Thomas has just explained, she's waiting upon the appeals process to make the next round of her decision-making
Correct,
process.
but she has also just told the committee that that process is not complete.
Well, she's
and
got
so you
28
will not-
days to complete
She
it.
will not be able to give you that answer until the appeals process is complete. If Senator Carr, you're happy with that?
Oh, I'm happy with
then-
that, but I'm not going to buy this stuff that just goes on forever.
No, it
Particularly
doesn't
when
go
it's
on.
the ARC that's made the error.
Well, nobody's suggesting anything other than that. The answer would be given once the appeal is complete and Professor
Now,
Thomas
I think
has
we're going
the
around circles.
information
We are
so
going
she
around
can
circles.
answer it.
Sorry, did you want to add something, Professor
Yes,
Thomas?
and there is a limit that applies to future Senator.
There
My
is, that's
apologies,
right.
I had a
Thank you.
brain blank.
Thank you very much. Look, the point I'm going to is that there must be a remedy here. Under the guidelines, there must be a remedy. If a candidate is excluded because of administrative error by an officer, there can't be a catch-22 situation where that candidate can be excluded from an awarding of from the award.
So, Senator, I understand that people don't like what's in the guidelines and instructions to applicants, but it is there, and that's why we're following the process to its conclusion.
Professor Thomas, I'd like to know if these candidates will be excluded as a result of this foul-up. You can't tell me how many. I'm asking you whether or not it's possible they will be excluded. That's a separate question.
I won't know till the conclusion because
Yes.
it depends on whether the appeals are successful.
No. If a candidate is excluded because of their number of opportunities to apply is extinguished, then they must be affected by this.
I will take it on notice and provide you with that information.
I'm just saying, administratively, that is the logical procedure to consider. My question goes to what is the remedy? And under the regulations, there must be a remedy. I suggest to you that the remedy will be within ministerial discretion, particularly if there's an error at the officer level.
So we will certainly consider what action follows once we see what the outcomes of the appeals committee deliberations are.
All right. Well, I'd ask you to take that on notice as well, and
Sure.
Minister, perhaps I could ask you if you would take that matter up with the Minister. There is a clear line of logic here as to what happens to candidates here who are excluded from applying because of administrative error within the Commonwealth Public Service.
Look, I see what you're concerned about. I'm not going to preempt the outcome of the process.
I'm not asking you to.
But
I'm
I'm
asking you
happy
to
to
take it up
relay
with the
that
Minister.
feedback.